Welcome to Macro Golf's Your Questions Answered. Here, this is part one, and it's just a case of going through questions that I get asked regularly, specific questions that get sent in, and just giving my best answer to all of these queries. So I've got some questions here that have been asked regularly across Instagram, across the Team Macro Golf platform, or been sent directly to me via email. And I thought this was just a good opportunity to give a little bit more of a detailed explanation on some of these answers, or give some answers to some questions that get asked to me a lot. So a few questions we're going to go through today. You've got opportunity to send in some questions whenever you want. You can either do that underneath this video in the comment section, send me a direct message, send me a message on Team Macro Golf platform if that's where you're watching this video, on YouTube, or send me an email directly. So if you want your questions answered, that's where you need to go. So we're going to start first here. This one was sent in via Instagram, and this one says, I have back pain while lining up my putts. What can I do about this? So as soon as I get anything back pain related, and if you are struggling with back pain, it's always good to kind of discover or think back to, was there an initial trauma here that caused this back pain? Was there an old injury that caused the back pain? Was there, you went to pick something up and something went? Or is this more of a niggling back pain, that kind of a dull ache that appears after standing up or sitting down for long periods? Or also in golf related terms, is it something that's onset through golf? Does golf make it worse? So there's not a lot of detail here to work from, but if we're looking at lining up through putts, I assume it's getting down into a squat position to line up that putt. So I would guess that in this situation, it's back pain that's occurring during golf, and it's a pain that then is appearing as we're getting down into probably a deep squat position or into a flex spinal position to then line up the putt. So for here, I would definitely say it's worth looking at what our mobility is like. If we've got a lack of mobility in the hips, for example, or a lack of mobility in the thoracic spine, while we're playing golf, we're going to be putting a lot of extra load onto that lower back area. Also, what's worth looking is there good stability in this lower back? Are we stable in this area? If we're not, we could be getting some excessive movements in that positions, which could be causing us some issues. So first of all, with this, we need to see what the cause is. What is the cause? What's causing this issue? Is it the golf? If so, look at those mobility and stability issues. Also look at golf swing technique. If we're getting a lot of hyperextension, if we're getting a lot of reverse spine angle, a lot of crunching, a lot of kind of spinal bend, then it's definitely worth looking at that, and that might be another way to reduce the cause of this lower back pain. If it's pain while lining up putts, it might be good to distinguish whether it's a pain or an ache. There's not, again, not a lot of detail on this question, so I'm kind of picking, but I think being able to distinguish between the pain and an ache is really, really useful here. If it's an ache, I'd say don't worry about it, just ease yourself off, improve all of these areas, and if it feels almost more like a release, I know I've experienced that sometimes myself, then stay in that position a little bit longer. It's also going to be beneficial. So yeah, in terms of the best answer for this one is going to be, look at your mobility, get that checked. Look at your stability, get that checked. Look at your golf swing. Look for a swing that's a little bit more withstanding of reducing lower back pressure. Yeah, and if there's a big trauma there, then that's definitely worth looking at and going and getting some medical advice on that as well. So that's the first one. Hopefully that answered your question for whoever sent that in. All of these questions are anonymous, by the way, so feel free to send in any questions. I won't name who sent them in, so feel free to just send them in. Okay, next one is flexibility / feeling tired after 15 to 6, hole 15 to 16. Okay, this is a really, really common one. There's so many different factors that can get involved with this. So I like the fact they've always mentioned flexibility here. I like to go for the word mobility, but flexibility is a good way of describing this also. So the more mobile we are, the less strain we need to put on our body to perform the golf swing. So if we have more mobility and we have more stability and we have more strength, then the resilience to performing the golf swing movement is going to be higher. Again, there's going to be less demand for us, which means we're going to experience less fatigue as the round goes on. So they've mentioned here flexibility. I would agree with that. I would also add stability and strength into that. That's also going to be needed. But we also need to think of other ways that we could be feeling tired. So for example, lack of good nutrition throughout the round. I've done a post on this recently. Not eating enough throughout the round, not drinking enough throughout the round. Potential caffeine crash halfway through the round is a common one. Mental fatigue also needs to be included, so allowing your brain to switch off at different moments throughout the round, not trying to stay fully engaged all the time. So there's so many different factors that could be involved in fatigue throughout a golf round. So I think yes, improving the flexibility like they've mentioned is going to be important. I think improving the strength is going to be important. I think improving their stability is going to be important. I think I would definitely like to get some information on what they're having pre-round and during the round in terms of food and hydration. Also be looking at how they're working with their mental game. Are they able to switch off between shots, or are they trying to constantly concentrate on everything? And also look at any caffeine intake they're having before the round and seeing if we can top that up. So yeah, plenty of stuff to go into that one. Look at all of those areas. I hate to give that as the same answer for everything, but generally, if we're fitter, stronger, more mobile, more stable, and in generally better physical shape, we can probably clear up a lot of these answers. So that's my one for that. So let's move on to the next one. I'm 57-year-old, good, struggling to make a full turn as I feel restricted. Okay, so this could be full turn as in backswing or downswing. So we're going to assume maybe it's both. Typically, when people mention that they've got a lack of turn, it generally is in the backswing. So we're going to assume that it's going to be in the backswing. But 57-year-old, okay, good. It would be good to get some idea of sporting history to see what has been going on in their life and in their background. In terms of full turn, generally we could probably break it down into hips and thoracic turn. There's going to be probably one of those two, if not both, or potentially, depending on what they're trying to do with their coach, maybe a little bit of shoulder movement in there as well. But if they're struggling to get a full turn, then it's definitely worth looking at the hips and looking at the thoracic spine. It's also interesting here that he says he feels restricted. So that's interesting. So maybe the golf coach or the positions he's trying to get into are not available to him at this moment. I would say there's a couple of things to add to this. One, there is definitely an opportunity to improve the amount of movement you have by working on the mobility. If you're feeling restricted in the backswing, look at the hips, look at the thoracic spine. They're going to be your two big wins. What I'd also say there is, does he need to make a full turn is another question. You'll find a lot of golf coaches will be able to work with what he's got. Maybe if he is struggling to make a full turn, he might be saying that he's losing a little bit of distance, which is possible, but he might be a little bit more accurate in those ranges. And instead of trying to force into positions that aren't available for him, he might be better off trying to manufacture a golf swing that is actually a little bit more suited to his body. So in terms of unnamed 57-year-old man, I would say work on some hip mobility, work on some thoracic spine mobility, but also accept that you don't need to have a full turn to be able to play good functional golf. So don't force yourself into these positions that might not be available to you. Definitely work on improving your ability to get into those positions, but it's not an absolute must. You can play some good golf from where you are, but if you're feeling restricted, start working on it. Again, same answer. Mobile, strength, stability is a common theme. Okay, cool. Next one. What would be a good warm-up routine for pre-practice and pre-round? Great question. So I always say to people, the more work you do, and again, without giving the same answer, the more work you do in time away from golf, so the stronger you are, the fitter you are, the more mobile you are, the more work you do, the less important a warm-up will become for you, because you'll find that generally you're in a much better state of readiness. You're ready to go and perform, you're ready to move, you're ready to do all these things, and your body's not going to have as much of a shock when you start trying to put it through an intense golf swing. So with this one, it very much depends on how much time you have. There would be a absolute perfect warm-up, which would probably be involving some activation work, some maybe some even pre-strengthening work. There's so much you can do if you have the time. I'm assuming time is of a constraint to most people, most amateurs specifically. And if time is of a constraint, then something to get your body moving is going to be priority number one. The best thing you can do is just get your body moving, whether that's with a golf club or without a golf club. Get your body going through some movements. That's going to be priority number one. The second priority I'd say is get a golf club in your hand, start with some small swings and gradually build yourself up, maybe over a 5-minute period, into more of a full swing. And the final point of this, which I often see people don't do, is get all the way up to your full maximum and even push that a little bit harder before you get to the first tee. So for example, grabbing your driver, if you've got, 30 seconds before you're going to tee off, grab a driver, go through some swings, gradually start to ramp that up, and even finish with some extremely fast swings, explosive power, and really start to ramp it and try and fire it. Then give yourself a little bit of time to cool down, or get your mindset back, and then go and hit your first shot. So I think with all of this, it's time dependent. Something that's going to get a little bit of activation, something that's going to get some movement, something that's going to start to get the club in your hands and get feeling it, it's all going to be of benefit. Don't expect anyone, amateur golfer wise, to get on the floor and do any stretching. I probably don't expect any amateur to get out a resistance band and start using it. So it's more what are you going to do? The best warm-up for you in this moment is going to be the warm-up that you're actually going to do, not the one that you'll regret doing because you're embarrassed of what your friends are going to say. So find something that you're happy to do, find something you enjoy doing, find something that doesn't take too much time for you, and I think that's going to be a good place to start. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, next one. I'm very active and fit, but golf makes me stiff. I'm very active and fit, but golf makes me stiff. Okay, so I'm going to make another assumption here. Anonymous female this time. This is feeling stiffness after golf is going to be my guess here. I'll either towards the late half of the round or following the round, getting the stiffness. So if we're very active and very fit, that's great. We're going to find the walking part of golf probably very easy, and we're probably not going to get much reaction from that. But if we're not doing any work in terms of our strength, stability, mobility, going back to all those key things, then what we'll find is we don't have much resilience to the actual golf swing part of it. So my assumption would be, to the nice lady who sent in this question, would be we're probably also feeling stiff maybe after a driving range session, where you'll find some people can go and hit hundreds of balls in driving range, not have any issue, but it's the walking side of the game that they start to fatigue. So if you're very fit, you're very active, the walking side will not be an issue for you, but it's probably the golf specific side of it that's getting a little bit, adding a little bit of strain, a little bit of demand. Stiffness is a good word to use, because what we'll find with stiffness, if it is stiffness, is actually moving will ease that stiffness. So actually, if you wake up the following day after playing around the golf and you feel stiff, if you get moving, generally you'll feel a little bit better. It's different to pain. So if we are feeling stiff after golf, work on your strength. Your strength will improve your resilience to that. Work on your mobility, because generally if we're stiff, we might be pushing ourselves through some ranges that aren't that comfortable to us. And also move regularly. So if you do feel stiff, get up and move. So instead of after playing a round of golf, going sitting down for the next 4 or 5 hours, maybe just do a little bit of active recovery, a little bit of movement, a little bit of relaxation, and just help the body relax through those positions. But the fact that we've used the word stiff here is a good sign, because stiff is better than pain. Okay, let's do, we're going to do 2 more. So the next one here, what is the best weight training exercise for swing speed? Great question. So whenever we get to weight training exercises, it's very hard to give one specific one. What I will do is I'll give what I would say if you could only do one. I would probably say a deadlift. I'd say a deadlift is going to be a great move. If it's going to have to be a weight training and it's going to be one exercise, I would say a deadlift, and any variation of a deadlift as well. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that there. That's a quick answer. Okay, this is a good one. Best body shape for a golfer: lean muscle or bulk like Bryson? Okay, good question. This is a very, very good question and very, very relevant. So I would probably say here, if we've got one person here with lean muscle and we've got one person here that's bulk like Bryson, if both of their strength levels are the same, both of their power is the same, their swing speed is the same, it probably is not going to make much difference, right? What we need to know is having a more bulked physique like Bryson, or a lean muscle physique, which one is going to give us the most opportunity to produce power in the golf swing? We're assuming that we're talking specifically about golf swing, not about the walking of golf. So what we'll generally find is a more bulked physique is generally more able to produce more power and more strength than a leaner physique in general terms. Okay, so the advantage of golf is there's no carrying of your body weight, there's no weight to power ratio. So really having some extra body weight isn't going to do any harm like it might do in, for example, sprinting or cycling or high jump or whatever sport you're using that needs to carry your own body weight through the movement. So In terms of that, I would say that a bulk like Bryson physique is not going to do any more harm than a leaner physique. What I would say is probably more important for all these signs is other health related things that are going to go along with this. So instead of just shoving our face with everything we can grab our hands on to go through a bulking process, we need to think, what's actually the gain of doing this? The goal with all of this needs to be creating as much muscle as possible with minimizing the amount of fat gain, give or take a little bit of kind of leeway either side. So in terms of going back to the question directly, best body shape for golfer, I would say whichever physique will be able to build the most amount of muscle, the most amount of strength, and the most amount of power. If you can do that with building minimal amounts of body fat, great work. It's harder, but great work. If you need to go down a more bulked, like Bryson, to use their words, route, absolutely fine. As long as your power has increased, your strength has increased, your health metrics have remained the same, then there's going to be no issue doing either one of those. So in terms of trying to specifically answer that question without the details, I would say for most people, if they want to build strength and they want to build muscle and they want to build their power, it's going to end up looking more like a bulk like Bryson route, simply because it's very difficult to build that amount of muscle without gaining the fat as well. Hopefully that answers your question. If you've got any more details on that, send them in. So that's what I'm going to go through for today. If you guys have any other questions, you can flip them through either on email, on Instagram, on Team Macro Golf platform, send me a direct message, however you want to do it, and hopefully I'll get as many of these questions answered for you guys as possible. My plan is to do one of these videos a week, and then what I'll do is I'll chunk this down into bite-sized information for you guys as well that follow me on all the platforms, and give you kind of quick answers to some of these questions as well. So all of your feedback, questions is greatly appreciated. Throw it down in the comments below, send me a message, and I'll see you guys in part 2.